come back to that.
But fossil car, but also EV car will drastically reduce
Right.
in next 10 years.
Right.
Because utilization will going to be increased, so they don't need car.
We saw last week that basically, based on studies done by the former general manager of, what was it, Ford or GM? I don't know. And he's now a professor. He established that in a certain region in the U.S., he calculated that basically there is will be a reduced need of cars. It will be reduced by 80%. Through car sharing and making more efficient use of making use of IoT and putting the distribution centers on the IoT, that will reduce the need for cars by 80%. Now they will drive with a lower footprint because they don't use fossil fuels, and we will use less cars. So what does that mean for GDP?
So what will happen for car manufacturer?
Oh, well, that will be basically they either go in the direction of Daimler-Benz, or they will be out of the game. Their scale will be significantly reduced. Now, I don't know if there will be other vehicles that come into place if we will start to move in a different, more efficient way through the air, for example, but. The future of car makers doesn't look very promising. It looks like there will be a big reduction in our needs for cars. And as you always mention, like what is a car? Basically, a car will become a computer with much less need for assembly and costs, and much less need for parts. So you can very easily assemble a car with much less parts than from the traditional car that's run by a combustion engine. So basically, also like the money to be made by a car manufacturer is also becoming less and less. It's like computers.
Car industry is the largest industry, all industry, right?
Right. But this will have significant impact. Yes, so there will be a lot of industries that will be undergoing a lot of changes if this third industrial revolution materializes. To distributed network, isolation office buildings. We need to focus on on energy savings, and that will be facilitated by the convergence of these three networks: transportation, energy, and internet. And every building basically will become a node on the IoT, on the Internet of Things. Then, how are we going to get there? How are we going to trigger that transition? How are we going to put the energy into the people? To actually go through this process, where we see a reverse trend that's happening in the U.S. at the moment, or at least under the Trump administration, which was apparently democratically elected by the American people. So how are we really going to be serious about this third industrial revolution? Will we be able to put our shoulders behind it? Well, there's certain things that he says. Okay, I'm kind of positive, because if we put the right story, if we create the right story, put us in the right perspective, people are are capable of doing many things. If you inspire people, if you tell the right story, then they can do the right thing. And he says that there's certain things that make me positive about that we can do this. First of all, we are moving away from the previous generation was very much focused on ownership, and now we tend to give more emphasis on experiences and having access. When you mentioned cars, why do we need less cars? Well, one of the reasons is that we no longer want to own a car, but we want transportation. We want transportation by car, and if we are going to move around town, maybe a small electric car will do. But if you're going touring with your girlfriend, then a nice sporty Tesla will be nice to use during the weekend. You don't need to own that car anymore. But basically, you can just order a car online. It will be driven automatically without a driver to your home. You just need to get in and tell the car where you want to go. So that is a change in perception, a change in the way that young people think relative to how the previous generations thought. And also there's a trend towards the circular economy. Instead of owning toys, now we recycle them, and I see them everywhere in the Netherlands. These recycle shops for toys, for clothes, for everything. It's becoming a huge economy. That's you can see them somewhere in Japan, but in Europe this is already very, very big. The circular economy is really starting to take off there. My niece, she has a lot of toys, but she doesn't own them. Most of them, they belong to the toy rental shop that is located in the town where she lives. So she plays with it for a week, 2 weeks, and then they go back. It's just like a library. So you don't own the books, but you just borrow them for a limited time, and then somebody else can play with the toys. It's that mindset that you don't need to own things and then throw them away after you use them. That is starting to take place, and that will be a driver to make that transition. The sharing economy, the Ubers, the Lyft, the Airbnbs. We will move away from consumerism, from putting pride on the material things that you own, towards a more sustainable things. So 3 important trends that he identifies. Previously, we identified freedom with being an independent agent, not having to answer to a boss. Being independent, having freedom means being independent, especially in Western society. Maybe much less so in Japanese society, but these are definitely things that ring true in the Netherlands. If you are self-sufficient, independent, then you are free. But nowadays, autonomy in the internet world, in the network world, autonomy means death. So you need to be your freedom is part of how well you are embedded into different communities. Power was identified with a pyramid. So if you the power was at the top of the pyramid, and very much vertically oriented. If you are on top of the mountain, if you're you're the king. Now power is identified by how well you are, how far your lateral reach is. So your engagement in different networks, how well you are embedded in different networks. That's horizontal.
You mean power will be diminishing?
Power will be defined differently. So power is not being on top of the hill. Power means that how well you're embedded in different networks, how far your influence stretches. And another thing is that the sense of community, sovereignty as an individual, but also it applies to nations. It's a zero-sum game where everybody's competing for resources. So whatever I can put my hands on, that is mine. and it will not be put in the hands of other people. So a zero-sum game that was the basis of geopolitics. That is changing because there becomes a kind of biosphere awareness, where we identify that the problems that we're dealing with are no longer a national problem. They become a global problem.
はい、皆さんこんにちは、雲野です。今日はですね、雲野塾の研修のプログラムをご紹介したいと思います。で、こういうふうなホームページありますけれども、ぜひですね、一度中身をご覧になっていただきたいと思います。今日はブーキューブさんのスタジオに来て、この収録をしておりますので、中身はこういうふうになってて、今最近ホットなね、グローバルリーダーの定義など書いてあります。で、特に経団連が作成しました留学すれば英語ができて専門性を持つというだけではですね、グローバルリーダーになれないとここに書いてありますようにですね、仕事ができる、専門性を持つ、英語ができるだけじゃなくてですね、私どもの塾ではリベラルアーツということと、それからもう一つは孫子の平和、さらにはですね、日本の歴史というものを合わせて教えることによって皆さんが海外の欧米の方々と、もしくは華僑圏の方々と正々堂々と渡り合えるような人物を育成しようというふうなことを考えています。ここに次のスライドが出ておりますけれども、ここに書いてありますのはですね、さらに、私どもの雲野塾の中身につきましてはですね、欧米の資料しか使っておりません。また実際に雲野塾は英語でやっておりますので、英語の講師がこう話しておりますけど、学習はですね、日本の歴史をまだ教えてますので、学習の午後はですね、日本のプログラムをしております。で、以前はこれ有料だったので、今はですね、実際に会場費も取っていただいておりませんで、毎回5000円ということで、朝9時から午後5時までやっておりますので、ぜひ皆さんですね、ご検討の上ご参加いただければと。英語のできない方もですね、学習の午後こういうふうな研修をしておりますので、ぜひご参加いただければというふうに思っておりますので、よろしくお願いします。で、ここにさらにですね、グループ討議とか実務の勘どころを教えると書いてありますけど、実際には私が10年ほどですね、欧米の新聞とか雑誌等をですね、集めてきた、もともと英語のベースでございますので、そうしたものをですね、50セッションのテーマに分けて資料を作成しております。そういうことで、世界のオペレーション、もしくはカントリーリスクも含めてですね、しかも世界のトップの方々に対してもいろいろな分析とか洞察をしてですね、議論をしております。そういったことも含めてですね、今後ともよろしくお願いしたいと思います。以上で私の挨拶を終えますが、今回のこのビデオの収録にあたってはですね、V キューブさんのスタジオをお借りしてですね、お時間を頂戴して、このビデオを作成させていただきました。よろしくお願いします。どうもありがとうございました。